we're not going to understand the full grasp of how detrimental medications are for hair loss or
Mm.
autoimmune diseases in general, because they're not healing us.
Welcome to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, the podcast for high achievers who want to stay sharp, focused, and full of energy despite their diagnosis. With your host, National Board Certified Functional Medicine Health Coach, Julie Michelson, where Julie helps you take your power back from autoimmunity. And now, here's your host, Julie Michelson.
Welcome back to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast. I'm your host, Julie Houghton, and today we're joined by Johanna Dahlman, aka Alopecia Angel. Johanna is a health and high-performance hair growth coach who follows functional medicine practices. She's also a professional speaker and podcast host of the Alopecia Angel podcast, Awaken to Hair Growth, and she is a mama and a wife as well. Having helped thousands of clients in over 67 countries, Johanna can attest that healing alopecia, no matter the type, is possible and sustainable. And in today's conversation, we're talking about how to effectively and permanently reverse hair loss and how that approach will support whole health long term. Johanna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Julie, for having me. It's such a pleasure.
I am so excited for this conversation, but of course, we have to start with, how did you become the Alopecia Angel?
Long ago, I had alopecia areata. When I was diagnosed in the salon while getting my routine highlights, my hairstylist told me, Johanna, you have alopecia. And I didn't understand what he meant by this word because I just never came across it. This was over 10 years ago. And at the time, we did have internet. So I Googled quickly what this was. And I just started crying right there in the chair. It was the first time that at the salon, I left heartbroken. I left not feeling good. I left with almost like a lump in my throat and a knot in my stomach. It was gut-wrenching to read what alopecia was, which for those of you who don't know, it is the medical term for hair loss. So if you have any type of hair loss, whether that's postpartum, telogen effluvium, diffuse, androgenic, scarring, alopecia areata, totalis, universalis, it's all under the same umbrella of alopecia, which is hair loss. So then after that day, I figured it would be quick. I had always been taught to go see a doctor, take their medications and then do what
They'll
I need
fix
to
it.
do,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
And I just figured, it's like going to the mechanic type situation. You have a check light, you get a diagnostic, and you're off to the races with that solution. And after seeing doctors in Denver, after seeing doctors in California, and then of course I had met my fiance, so we moved to the Netherlands. So I saw doctors there as well. I realized that there was a huge array of options and no options. No options in Europe. It was, you're going to just live with this and this is part of who you are now, versus let's give you all the pharmaceuticals that we have, all the creams, potions, and pills, and let's see what happens. And, I just had my fiance. We wanted to get married, have kids, do the whole family thing.
Yeah.
And doing the conventional medicine route was not for me. I dove hard into data research, and it took me, 2, 3, 4 years to really get this under control and start seeing hair growth. And today, now at almost 45 years old, I have thick hair and it grows an inch a month. And
Wow.
I can track this with my grays that are covered right now.
Uh,
Well, they're popping out though. I can track this with my highlights, of course. And it's that compounding effect of doing what I need to do to have the hair growth, have the health, and you keep compounding just like a savings account.
Sure.
So it didn't happen overnight, not the hair growth, nor the inch a month. But this is where I am today, 10 years
Yeah.
post, alopecia free. And right after I started feeling those symptoms, because it's more than just hair loss, there's a numerous amount of symptoms that every individual going through an autoimmune disease will experience regardless of the exact diagnosis. And so
Yep.
because of that, once I felt this veil, this like tsunami of symptoms just kind of subside, I was just like, you know what? People need to know. People need to know that they don't have to struggle, that there's an option, there's a choice to heal. And it's not going to be through medications, and it's not going to be doing nothing. It's about
Right.
taking a proactive approach,
Yeah.
diving deeper into what needs to happen, making those changes, being committed, patient, and keep going. It's a
Yeah.
marathon. It's
Well, and I so resonated with you when I first heard you interviewed, because that's what you do from your passion, from your healing journey, as do I. And I think I've heard you say it took you about 4 years to figure out for you what lifestyle changes you needed to make to support, your inner wellness, which expresses in this beautiful head of thick hair eventually, right? And you shortcut for your clients, just like I say, my healing approach was throw spaghetti at the wall. Right? So it took me years because I didn't know. I didn't have a guide. I didn't have somebody to, and I think that was one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on. And I want to kind of talk about a little bit about the different kinds of alopecia. We'll just touch on them, but and because I know I've heard you say, it doesn't really matter that you help your clients with hair loss, whether it doesn't have to be autoimmune. It can be, any kind of hair loss that they're facing. I don't think people realize like the importance of nutrients and wellness for hair health, right? And I actually love the fact that you still highlight your hair, right? Because that's not where the wellness is coming from. It's not coming from the hair, it's coming from the inside. And so I know we have such similar approaches, because what you do is you have a framework, like I have a framework, but it's personalized, right? It's not a one size fits all.
correct. It has to be because
Yeah.
no one person, even if we all had the same alopecia, one person to everyone else is going to look so different. I mean, my clients, they're just so vastly different. They're in 67 different countries. The ages range from 8 months to 82 years of age.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that many people don't even live in homes. Some of them live in hotels. Some of them live on cruise ships. Some of them are living in dorms at college. Some of
Right.
them, it's just
So you
life.
have to figure out what'll work for them, So when your hairdresser told you had alopecia, had you noticed hair loss or no? You hadn't noticed yet. Okay.
Nothing. No hair
Wow.
loss, but it started with like a dime size spot. And then little by little, I got more and more spots and they started connecting. And it's also possible to have the two different types of alopecia at the same time. So I had not just areata, but I also had telogen effluvium. I've had clients, male clients, who have alopecia areata plus androgenic, which is male pattern, female pattern baldness type of hair loss. You can also have, let's say, women who have female pattern baldness plus telogen effluvium or diffuse, or even right now I have a client who's going through postpartum. She's 3 months postpartum
Yeah.
plus alopecia areata. So you've got multiple, things and factors to look at, deal with, and kind of integrate all in once. Because again, as to your point, it's never a one size fits all, and it has to be tailored. Not everyone's breastfeeding, not everyone is postpartum or even looking to
Right.
get pregnant.
Right, right. And I applaud, it's always the kindness of just the timing, right? Who knows what road you would have gone down if you weren't forward thinking to, I want to have a family. I don't know what I want to put into my body. I want to touch on, I believe you have on your website still. I want to just talk about and again, this is whole health. We've got toxins and stress and diet and sleep. And, I heard you say, that's when I was like, I love her. Sometimes people are over exercising and driving chronic inflammation that way. So, it's not all, I know you were seemingly healthy, when you first experienced this, right? You were fit and working out and living consciously, making conscious choices. Um, what are some of the big drivers? What I started to refer to were you have a list of medications, which of course I'm sure there are too many to possibly ever list anywhere, right? We don't realize, we think we're treating one thing and we're causing another problem. I know with all the medications, when I first went down the traditional route for my rheumatoid arthritis, I experienced a ton of hair loss, to the point that, I mean, my hair had always been long. And when I got healthy and all this healthy, crazy curly hair was going in, I had to cut my hair short because I had like literally two different heads of hair. I had like the stringy, what's left over. And thank God, like this full head of wild hair. So what are some, and we'll circle back to highlight again, this is a complete lifestyle that you do. It's not, there's not one thing. Like everybody's lifestyle's different. Everybody's maybe root causes are different, but there are things that you see patterns that contribute to alopecia. What are some of the big ones? Because I think people tend to have blinders on, and they're just, sometimes to me things are so obvious and they just don't consider them.
Yes, there's a lot. We look at cellular optimization, we look at metabolic health, we look at diet and lifestyle, of course. We also look at gut health. We also look at emotional and mental well-being. There are so many factors that come into this. And if you think about this, it's almost like a home. I live in an older home. It's about 40 years old, if not more. And, whether it's a new home or a brand new home, or let's say a home that's been 100 years old or 50 or 20 or even just 5, there's always some sort of maintenance. Even with the brand new homes, there's
Sure.
always issues. Nothing's perfect. And
Yeah.
so this is kind of the same way that I look at our own bodies. We need to maintain our cars and our homes. And in the same way, I may have a plumbing issue today, but then my next door neighbor may have something else or maybe nothing at all. And so each home requires its own inspection, requires its own type of maintenance. And then also, it also has weak spots, right? We all have
Sure.
our weaknesses and our strengths. And so it's also looking at, where am I weak? Where am I weakest? And where does this weak area, where can I focus more on it so that I can strengthen it, so that I can improve it? So just like the weeds in the garden, the weeds are going to be there every month, every year
Yeah.
type thing. And so it's not just a one and done. This is a lifelong marathon. And I think that's what a lot of people want to think, that this is just,
Quick fix.
take a couple weeks, a couple months, and I'm done. And it's like, I got my hair back. But then lo and behold, it's just like, I wouldn't be here today if I don't breathe my own program. And on
Right.
top of it, not only do I live and breathe it, but then I also incorporate biohacking, and I do more. I do the extra credit that you would do in graduate school, in college, all
Right.
that extra credit I continue to do. And this is why I've seen that extra return on investment when it comes to
Right.
my health, even at 44, with a toddler at home, with any and all type of normal day-to-day stressors or whatever
Sure.
life gives me. It's like I'm still able to ride the wave. And I think this is what we need to have as an understanding. It's not about perfection. It's about learning to ride the waves that life gives us into the best of our ability, so that we're not, whitewashed.
Doesn't take us down. Yeah. I love that you said that, because I've had so many people say, well, do you say you don't have RA anymore? Did you never have RA? I said, I don't say, first of all, but I will say, if I went back to the lifestyle that contributed to me being symptomatic and declining for over a decade, I would be symptomatic and declining again, right? Instead of feeling better, just wait. I'm 56. I feel the best I've ever felt. That's what's possible. And again, same thing. It's because, I got into functional medicine from biohacking. So But it is the extra credit. And we were having a conversation in the clinic yesterday about foundation, right? You can't just go to the fancy biohacking, shiny, fun, cutting edge, cool, fill in the blank without addressing all those things you just mentioned as foundational.
Yes, there is a
Yeah.
foundation, and it's just like the house. If it's
Yeah.
built on straw, we already know what's going to happen. If it's built on, bricks, we have a solid foundation. And that's what we need to look at first. Like, where are we going wrong with our foundation? And to many people, this seems very superficial or maybe even obvious because they could do a quick Google search. But I'm telling you, I've had functional medicine doctors come to me. I've had
Sure.
nutritionists, physical therapists, personal trainers, pharmacists, nurses, you name it. I've had the gamut of healthcare practitioners and workers come to me for their own hair loss, for their
Sure.
child loss, because they can't figure it out. And so this is the thing, is like, what you don't know, you don't know. And
Right.
that always holds you back. So going back to blind spots, this is a huge blind spot, is that if you continue to think that you know it all, well, then you're going to continue to get the results that you've been having. So this is why opening yourself up to different modalities, different ideas of thought, different opportunities to learn and grow is huge and will only lead to your success. And I know sometimes that's frustrating because in my own case, and probably in every client who I've spoken to, they see one doctor and two and three and four and
Sure.
15 doctors, and they try acupuncture and Ayurveda and this and that, and then everything else at the drugstore, and nothing's worked. And then they come to me and they're like, "You're my last hope." And I'm like, "Well, this is it. You've arrived. We're gonna get hair growth." And so the thing is, you have to look at your journey as just that. It's leading you in the
journey.
right direction. And it will happen. It's not about if, it's about when. And so the only time it won't happen is when you give up. That's what I truly believe. If you give
Yeah.
up, game
Oh, yeah.
over. If you keep going, it will happen. Just like you persevered, that resilience, the perseverance, the tenacity that you and I had, and so many others, that's a requirement. That's the prerequisite to getting
Yeah.
on the bus, to getting you to your destination.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yes. And you do something I find remarkable because everybody knows, like, I know the body is designed to heal. I've helped thousands of people with autoimmunity reverse symptoms. I see it every day, right? We're all special in our own right. But I didn't heal, but nobody else can. Like, we all can. But it's always, you do it fast. I just, I have, so let's talk about that a little bit because, how, other than the fact that, you're looking at whole health, right? And making an individualized plan to meet people where they are, how are you getting hair to start growing back so fast for your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. For those of you who are new to me, Alopecia Angel, 90% of my clients see hair growth in less than 8 weeks. And many times I can guarantee this because it's really, once I have that initial conversation, I'm looking at the whole person. I'm already, understanding where their weaknesses are, and I'm enabling and empowering them to move the needle quickly because they want it. It's almost like weight loss. They
Right.
want it. And so I'm here to
Well,
help.
and same, like, but again, back to by the time they find you or show up at your virtual doorstep, like they've tried all of the conventional stuff.
It's incredible. Some are just primed for it and they're already more than halfway there. Others, they need to start from ground zero. We're all at a different level of health and wellness and what we consider to be truly healthy and wealthy in that sense. So, for example, I've had a gut health coach come to me, and in 24 hours, her hair loss stopped. She's in her 60s, and she helps people with gut health and all different types of pathogens and bacteria. And she's been having this hair loss for over 20 years. In 24 hours, she was able just to stop it. And it was incredible. But she too had her own blind spots. And that's the thing. We all have blind spots. It's like we're running uphill with a parachute on our backpack. So that delay will always hold us back until I'm able to take it off, snip the parachute and say, here, run. And
Yeah.
then that's where the magic happens, is that I'm there to showcase the root causes, the blind spots, to see if we need testing, to see, what more needs to happen, and to have those hard, honest, candid conversations. And I don't sugarcoat it. Like when I see something,
That's why I like you.
it is what it is, and that
Uh-huh.
I give tough love,
Yeah.
and I wish somebody would have given me that, um, I guess throughout my whole life, throughout my whole journey, because I preferred it very straight and narrow versus beating around the bush or telling me,
Yeah.
oh, it'll happen, or just, fluffing over it and put
Yeah.
it underneath the rug. Like, tell me exactly what I need to do so I can get to my results. This is what I am. I'm results driven. I came from Apple. So in Apple, working in corporate, there was no wiggle room. It was either results or nothing, progress or
Yeah.
nothing. And many times, if you didn't show results or progress, well, guess what? That cost you your job. So having so many years at
But
Apple,
that also helped you on your healing journey too. Say, okay, there's a
yes,
problem. That just that perspective that things are solvable, right?
yes,
You just might have to, like come up with an idea, an approach that may seem crazy at first, or just really different than what anybody else is doing because what other people are doing isn't working.
I will tell you that mindset, that culture of working at Apple absolutely played an immense part in my healing, because I had my bad days as well. I had the day when
Sure.
I was crawled up on the floor crying endlessly and feeling hopeless, feeling like
Yeah.
what I'm doing, what nothing's working, and it's just continuing to, shed, and I'm continuing to look bald. And this was very heartbreaking for me as someone who's always had big curly hair. It was
Yeah.
pretty traumatic in many ways. But that mindset of getting back up, there is a solution, just keep going. And it didn't matter what any medical textbook said or any doctor. Like, I knew deep down that there was a possibility. I just needed to keep listening to that intuition and keep moving forward. And thank
Yes.
God I never quit. I'm not a quitter to begin with. Um, and I think doubt is actually a good indicator, or even fear, that you're on the right path, because
Right.
once you start questioning yourself, once you start evaluating and having even a fear to, let's say, invest in yourself for this program, for this, or for this help, then you start to see, like, do I really want this? That's actually the universe testing you. Do you really want this?
Right.
Because guess what? It's going to take all of you to get there, just like the Olympics. We haven't all gone to the Olympics, and there's a reason for it. Not
Right.
everyone gets the gold medal at the end, but because it takes a lot of work, dedication, and effort. And in the same case, if we're rebuilding your body from the ground up, there's a lot of, processes and things to follow, protocols to follow, and rules to follow. And then once you work through every facet, you get the gold medal, you get your hair, you get your health, you get so much more that you even thought or bargained for.
Yeah. It's so true. And sometimes we need a kick in the pants or and I know you do what you wish you had a you, right? That guide, that detective, the support, the all the things. And that's why I do what I didn't have a me to guide me through. And oh my gosh, if I could have accelerated my healing journey because there was like a systematic approach to getting me to where I wanted to go, wouldn't that have been amazing? And that's why we're here, right? Because we both know that we can get results faster than we had to experiment and figure out for ourselves, which is amazing. I want to talk about I know you all work with men as well as women. It started really mostly with women, and I think that women have so much, and some men too, to be fair, but there's so much emotion and identity tied into you. You said you always had big curly hair, right? I always had big curly hair. I didn't embrace it when as a child, or even a young adult. Uh, but and I think that's typical for women too. People with curly hair, like straight hair. Like there's that's an interesting phenomenon. But the everybody has different motivations, and for a lot of women, no matter how much pain they're in, how fatigued they may be, what other, GI distress, like name any other internal symptom. Alopecia is one of the more, a lot of autoimmunity you can't see from the outside, right? But when our hair starts to fall out, we want to fix that. Right? Like, and I'm not talking about, I don't mean it in a vanity. Like, I'm not even just talking about because we want to look good. It's just really a big piece of our identity often. And we see, and I've heard you talk about, and listeners have heard, these, when you get one autoimmune, you tend to get, multiple, if you don't go after the root cause that started the first one. Because the diagnosis is really just a label for the symptom. It's not like the autoimmune process is the same. Like what was driving my RA could have very well easily driven alopecia instead. But a lot of women, I feel like Hashimoto's is that like most common crossover for people where they have Hashimoto's right? Or sometimes they they're trying to, addressing their whatever their first autoimmune is, they realize, oh, they also have undiagnosed Hashimoto's. And people tend to think of Hashimoto's and hair loss, again, as going hand in hand
They do,
too.
yeah, they do. Hashies, vitiligo, RA,
Yeah.
there's even MS. They all like to buddy up to alopecia. Anything skin like psoriasis, eczema, dermatitis. And I actually do see clients with, let's say, alopecia areata or totalis or universalis, the autoimmune alopecia, plus a second and a third autoimmune. Or
Yeah.
even, let's say, if you have female pattern baldness, which is just like right here on the crown and maybe some thinning all around, but they also have IBS, or they also have Crohn's,
Right.
or they also have, a different type of, health situation. So all of this can be healed. It's not just the hair. It's also,
Right. The hair's the symptom.
yeah, the hair is your, everyone's after the hair, and I get it.
Yeah.
But that is definitely the whipped cream on top of the pie. It will happen. Everything else also needs to be in line. And that's what we're talking about. Well, it's really alignment. It's an orchestra. All of the body is an orchestra, and everyone needs to be on tune, on point.
Yeah. Because if you just have one great, strong brass section or whatever, or just the strings are great, but, it's still not going to sound good until you've got that harmony with everything going on. I love that we use the symphony analogy a lot for the body because it's true. And that's why when people try this thing and then that thing and then that, they don't get the results because they're not addressing the whole picture.
So true.
Do you see, because I'm thinking of some past clients that back to didn't matter how bad they felt on the inside. They did not want to take the blinders off and admit that perhaps their breast implants were one of the big drivers of their autoimmune symptoms. But if I think a lot of them, if you connect it to the hair loss, they'd have more motivation to explore that possibility. Do you see, do you have a fair amount of clients that have had breast implants or breast implant illness?
I actually have a podcast episode about it that I did maybe about 2, maybe 3 years ago. And so they come to me, they're like, I already took out my breast implants. So they're go-getters. So the people who I attract are type A, they want the results. They're, eating up every blog post or podcast episode, and they're just doing as much as possible
Yeah.
until the time is right, or until like the next opening or whatever it is to start working with me. And so I think once you yourself have that motivation and go-getterness, I think that is already leading you at the head of the pack in terms of healing, because we can't be an ostrich. Now, are some clients, of course, resisting certain things? Absolutely, in different areas. And the breast implants, I don't think people resist so much. They already see the correlation. It's been
Okay.
on the news. There's so much data on it where it's obvious. And so in many cases too, when I talk about, let's say, cortisone shots, steroid injections, or any type of JAK inhibitors, I correlate it to breast implants. When I was 18 in California, all my friends were getting breast implants. I never needed them or wanted them. And, it takes a good 20, 30, 40 years for us to realize what these breast implants are doing, or the side effects of this, or even a C-section, or whatever, the latest, vaccine or what have you. It's not till decades later, we're not going to realize what's happening, but we already have these medical mistakes in history. It's just looking back. And then also being open to that, because sometimes people are new to the medical world, or let's say they've never had a diagnosis or never had any major surgeries. I'm one of them. I never had a broken bone. I never had any surgeries. Like, I was a healthy kid in general for my whole life. And then all of a sudden, at my healthiest, I'm diagnosed with this. And I'm just like, huh? So it just took me aback. And so maybe there's people out there that resonate with that, where they were always healthy and then they get a diagnosis out of nowhere.
Right.
But it's not out of nowhere. And so then you start to have to reevaluate what's happening and kind of like reassess, like, what is going to work, what's not going to work. And so maybe after so many years of JAKs or whatnot, it starts to backfire. And this is why I'm so passionate about it, because we're not going to understand the full grasp of how detrimental medications are for hair loss or autoimmune diseases in general, because they're not healing us. They're maybe maintaining, maybe, covering up a situation, more of a Band-Aid. But just like minoxidil, just like Nutrafol, just like Viviscal, just like anything else, it cannot work. It can backfire. It can have side effects. And I don't think the regular population or even public is cognizant of this. And they just want, oh, my kid needs this, my kid needs this, or I need this, or I need this, or my husband needs this. And okay, but at the same time, it'll come back. So it's like, what do you want? Do you want to actually heal naturally and be bulletproof? Or do you want this quick fix shortcut that could potentially have, huge harmful ramifications, and then, of course, losing the hair all over again? Like, which is it?
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, it's back to the journey, and is it the Band-Aid? It's interesting just to highlight I've had a handful of clients that I really suspected that breast implants were driving their symptoms. And this is fascinating to me. This is a psychology thing, I guess, but a couple of them literally within like a week of getting their implants, either they had encapsulation, they had like massive inflammation, and but yet they left them in for 10, 20, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, no, they actually know they've been a problem the whole time, but they don't connect it to the ongoing chronic stuff, which is kind of wild. Even though your, approach is individualized for people, is there a like never ever kind of across the board, and maybe, there's always like that one or two people that it doesn't apply to, but are there things that and again, I know like what's right for your lifestyle might not be right for somebody else's today, but things we should not be doing, like that this is really not good for, I would say hair. I mean, we're talking about the alopecia, but really health, right? Like, do you have a never ever?
It's hard to say, as someone who's lived in so many countries, it's going to look a little different for each country. And I think the concerns would be bigger depending where you live. And that's even within the US.
Yeah.
I think those health markers would be drastically different, let's say in Flint, Michigan, for people drinking water there compared to people in the Swiss Alps, or you know what I mean? And so it just all
Yeah.
depends where you live to have these, oh, no, we don't do that here because of this situation. And so I've spoken to people, let's say they live in Ohio and they live right next to some sort of plant or chemical factory. And so you have to take into consideration your environment and where you live. And the beautiful thing is, just like I've chosen to move and uproot me and my family, not just me, it's possible for anyone. And so I think also looking at your environment, like where do you live? Like, do you really thrive there? Do you really love it there? It's one of those things where I question, and I saw this social meme the other day where the kids, apparently they did research on this, the kids apparently who questioned adults and who just kind of questioned authority a lot,
Yeah,
have more success rates than the ones who are
sure.
obedient, obedient with what needs to happen or whatever rules and laws. And not to say that, that I have like a bad driving record or anything, because I don't. But what I'm saying is that I've always
You're a
questioned.
self-thinker.
I've always questioned, like, why are we doing this? Why is this being,
But that's
provided?
why you're doing what you're doing. That's why I was thinking that, like, when my kids were little, I had, 3 within 4 years, and, why? What you think of any child's favorite question? Why?
Exactly.
Why? Why? And I really do think that that's the difference. The ones that don't get that squashed, I mean, that's what I do for a living. That's what you do for a living. You ask why, right? Why are you feeling this symptom? Why do you have the autoimmunity? Why are you losing your hair? And not taking the because I just had a baby or because I have Hashimoto's or but as well, okay, but why? And so it makes perfect sense to me that you're like, no, I am a questioner. I'm a self-thinker. I because that's what it takes sometimes to get to the okay, what is really going to work for this person in this case?
And really, at the end of the day, you can get as much help or guidance from so many different avenues, but at the end of the day, each person needs to walk that journey. They have to take the action. It's like going to the gym. The personal trainer is there to guide you, but the one doing the push-ups, running on the treadmill, lifting the weights is that person. And so this is something that I think everyone across the board needs to understand, because it's not like you're going to go get a medication or a shampoo or a surgery and like you're all done. It's up to somebody else's hands. No, this is you taking full responsibility, taking ownership of your future and of your health, and making those changes, whatever it is. And I think without those changes, then you're not going to see the results. So just like if you don't do the homework, you won't graduate. Same thing. There's consequences to all our decisions. So if we want to continue being in denial, because that's just it. A lot of times we are in denial that this and this are correlated to each other, or can this really be a blind spot, or can this really be a situation? And I'm not here to convince people. I'm telling you the answers.
Right.
You do it with what you want.
Yeah. Well, and again, it comes back to motivation too. I actually wouldn't identify as somebody who questioned much when I was younger. Right? Now I question everything. Not in a hopefully I haven't gone too far, but and I actually think that's part of why I ended up with so many diagnoses and declining, starting in my early 30s is, you know, um so I think mindset is so important, and take like you said, taking ownership. You can guide somebody, but you can't make the changes for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and nor can I, and nor would I do I want to. Anyway, but that's not how we create lasting change. So do you have any like pet practical like daily habits that you think are just essential for wellness, for energy, for like growing hair back, for all of it?
Yeah. For anyone who's experiencing hair loss, there's a couple things to start with. I have many free PDFs on my website where you could see any medications that you're currently taking because there's a long list that do cause hair loss, everything from birth control to SSRIs, you name it. There are medications out there where the side effect is hair loss. So I think that's the first place to start. There's also hair products that have been in lawsuits and who are known to have hair loss as a side effect. And their hair products, their shampoos, their mousses.
And they're still out there for
They're still out
sale.
there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're still out there. There's equipment that we use, styling equipment. And so being aware of these things, and sometimes they don't even just cause hair loss, they also cause cancer. And so it's these types of things that we need to be aware of. So that's another free PDF that you can grab on the website. Another one is also understanding the ramifications of alopecia meds, hair loss meds, what that looks like. Even if it's not a medication and it's just minoxidil or Rogaine from the drugstore, well, guess what? That type of situation is lifelong. They want you on minoxidil for the rest of your life, but at some point, like I said, it either has a side effect, you'll get maybe little blisters or bumps on your scalp, maybe it'll be itching, maybe it'll get red and inflamed, or maybe it's your body rejecting the chemicals and the toxins that are in this product. And at some point too, once you stop the minoxidil and the Rogaine, what do you think is going to happen? Well, you're going to lose all the hair. So this is also something to consider, because it's not just, I have this problem, I'm going to remedy it now. And so let's say, just like birth control, you want to get off in a year. Well, you're going to lose all the hair. So why even start? And so it's these types of questions that I want people to think through before they even take the next step. So it's really gathering your thoughts, understanding what's happening right now, and take a full assessment of yourself and then move forward. I also offer a free consultation so people can have a free consult with me so we can talk about their situation. The other thing too is understand that it's not just me and Julie here, saying, hey, we've healed and we're all good. But there's, my podcast that has so many client interviews from the horse's mouth of people from all different countries, races, ethnicities, moms, parents, professionals of all sorts. And so this is where you're going to get your inspiration. This is where you're going to get your really the guiding light. Lean into the stories of people who've made it, not the naysayers, not the people angry or bitter, or
not the big corporations who spend, tons of marketing money to get you to use their products either,
Thank you. That's a big one. And so this is part of it, is really doing your due diligence, really understanding that it's just more of all of the factors, even the factors that you don't think that are necessary to heal, they are. And so I actually walk through this in a free training that I offer. So this is another option for your listeners or for anyone else out there, because I know everyone knows somebody with hair loss. Everyone does. And so this is the thing. It's like, even if it's long COVID hair loss, even if it's postpartum for 5 years, or even if it's, XYZ hair loss, and you haven't been able to resolve it for over 10 years, or 3 decades or what have you, I believe there's still always a hope. And it's about attacking it correctly, strategically, in a tailored approach as soon as possible. The sooner we get to that, the sooner the better. And this is why I think the sense of urgency is a huge one, especially for scarring alopecia. Scarring alopecia is one of those situations. It's like having mold in the house or termites, where if you don't get to it, you're going to be left with
damaged,
a zero livable home. And so you need to attack it as soon as possible, right? We don't want mold in the house. We don't want termites in the house. Same thing. This infestation can lead to the detriment of the whole facility, of the whole structure. And so in the same manner, when you have a diagnosis such as scarring alopecia, I actually just recorded yesterday with a lady with scarring alopecia. Her whole head is scarred over. So at this point, PRP, a hair transplant, none of these things would work for her, and they won't work for her because it's completely scarred. And so in the same manner, if you have a diagnosis or a suspicion that it could be scarring alopecia, act fast.
Now. Yesterday was the time.
Faster the better, because even with clients who I've seen with scarring alopecia, maybe they have one little spot here that's scarred, but everywhere else it's growing. So, okay, so maybe you comb your hair this way, or maybe a different hairstyle, but maybe this, if it's already scarred, maybe it won't come back, but at least everything else we can promote. And I think the biggest driver here is that it's up to us to take our health into our own control. And even the hair growth, it's up to us really for everything, because again, that sense of urgency is on us.
Amen. I liken it to, it's the same with, I mean, if you look at my hands, you won't know that I declined with rheumatoid arthritis for 11 years. I'm really lucky. And so before, the damage to the joints was irreversible, right? Like, I don't have hand pain. I can open jars. I can do all the things I couldn't do in my 30s and 40s. But there's is a point of no return, either with joints or with scalp, with scarring, with, which doesn't mean you don't want to stop the progress. I always say, like, wherever you are, you can feel better and get better. It's just, we have to be realistic about, and I think when you talk about doing the inspection, taking the just really assessing your life, yourself, your history, which is still going to be more difficult to do than getting Johanna to assess with you, because she'll see, right through those blind spots. But it's like, what am I willing to do the work? Because it does take work. And I do think, again, it is a fascinating, like, the psychology of it. I think people, if they connect, I think there's more motivation regarding hair loss than there is regarding other damage to the body that's other people can't see. And so, but what I love about what you're doing is that it because you're addressing whole health, it's less about what kind of alopecia it is, what other, do you also have Hashis? Do you have this? You have, is that your approach works like amazingly across the board.
It does. It does. It really does. And I love seeing that statistic of so many people seeing hair growth, seeing progress, their joint pain going away, their headaches, their migraines, the PMS, the menopause, the hot flashes, the this, the that, all these things are going away. Girls that are 25, 26 with hemorrhoids, or, having this or having that, like, done. All of it is gone. And yes, that's a huge thing because it was debilitating. But then on top of it, they're getting the hair growth, which is,
Right.
like I said, it's that whipped cream on top of the cupcake. And so it's such a big deal because it sets them up for success for the rest of their life. Like, if you think about it, once you have the answers, you're golden. It's almost
It's
like
so empowering.
it is.
And we all have to shift. Like you said, you're now in the extra credit phase, right? But the healing journey never ends. Life, there are always different waves to roll with, right? And so our wellness routine needs adjusting as we go along the journey. But once you have the tools and you really understand, like you said, like, then you have the power to just continue choosing health.
100%. I agree. And once you start working with me, you'll understand that being proactive is not just a mindset, but it's also an action. It's an action verb. Being proactive is an action verb. And so once we start having this proactive approach towards everything, then you really do become unstoppable with your health and your hair. So since having alopecia areata, because what a lot of people have said to me before in the past, in the beginning of, especially of starting Alopecia Angel, is that, oh, but then there's a certain number and percentage of people who get alopecia and it resolves within 1 year. And I was like, really? Mine lasted for a lot longer than just 1 year. It's not a sporadic situation. Just like in a garden, you're going to have weeds. They're always going to come back. So it's also about protecting that garden and ensuring that everything is healthy. And so that's what I've done, not just since having
prevent that second or third diagnosis. And, like, it's not, it really isn't rocket science. If you don't fix what caused the problem, the Band-Aid isn't going to last you.
So just like you, I'm assuming your RA has been gone and in remission and you're done, and it doesn't have to come back, just like my hair loss. And it doesn't matter whether I've, moved 3 times to 3 different countries in a year and a half, or, whether I had my first baby at 40, or, life trials and tribulations. It's going to happen, but it's all about us undertaking and really having that proactive approach, saying, okay, well, if I need to cut back here and then do this and do that,
You shift your sails. Yeah.
you shift, and this is where the flexibility comes in, because every season is going to be different, especially for women, where we have puberty, we have perimenopause, we have menopause, we have in the age or season of having babies and postpartum.
Yeah.
These fluctuations, especially in hormones, and
Yeah.
it can lead to an opening, a little crack
Just
that's
a crack
open
in the wall. Yep.
for us to go in and just have a Hashimoto's situation or an alopecia situation. And so this is where everything needs to be like an army, really tightly enforced. And so once it's enforced, nothing can penetrate.
I love that. It's so good. I want to ask, because listeners are leaning in, because they know I ask every time, for one thing people can do starting today to improve their health.
One thing.
Yeah, I know it's such a hard question. Intuition, what popped up?
I would say ask for help, but not
Love
ask for
it.
help, the right help. If this resonated with you, grab that free consultation. If you want more help and you're trying to do it yourself, because that's the other thing I see, people trying to do it all themselves.
Yep.
And in your case, it was over 5-10 years. In my case, it was over 4 years. Don't do it by yourself. This is why we've created shortcuts. This is
Yeah.
why you can get healing in less time, within a year's time. And a year actually sounds like a lot. Less than a year, you can be good to go with a huge bill of, full health and full hair and full remission of RA and so many other things. Like, you can get this done in less time. So at what point is this costing you? Costing you your well-being, your mental health, your emotional health, how you show up at work, with family, with friends? How do you
Yep.
want to show up for the rest of your life? Because it's not just about now in this episode, it's about the rest of your life as well. Like, who do you want to be? Like, do you want to be a better wife, parent,
Absolutely.
etc.? There's just so much at
Yeah.
stake here. I can count numerous people who where, yes, having alopecia and having a big bald spot right here affected them as teachers in kindergarten, because the kindergartners were pointing at the teacher
Sure.
and making fun of her. Or how does this affect you when you have to go to a corporate setting? I had a gentleman who was 50 years old at the time of working with me. He had 19 bald spots on his beard and on his head. He worked in corporate, but he had a full head of hair. But these bald spots, like, they look unprofessional. Like, you can't wear a baseball hat to work. It's this type of scenario where it's gonna affect more than just the
It's
hair.
how you show up in the world, and whether it's, the hair loss piece or the pain, fatigue, whatever symptoms people are dealing with, we can't consistently show up as our best selves when we don't feel well and we don't have the energy resources. We just can't. And so we can make that contribution. We can be, like you said, the better wife, the better mother, the better partner, the better business leader, the better fill in the blank, the better human, by taking care of, like you said, our house, our body, what's going on in here. And then we get to show up, and life gets bigger instead of smaller.
It does.
Yeah.
This adulting situation, it's always like a new era, milestone, a new something to look into.
Yes.
There's always more. It never lessens. There's just always more to
Yes.
like. And so
and-
this is something to take into consideration, but I'd say get the help, don't delay, because even with clients who said, oh, look, I was in transition.
Thought about it. Yeah.
It was finances. It was
Shoulda,
just,
woulda, coulda.
and they waited 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
I have a recent client who joined with me, 7 years. She's been following me. She's
She wasn't ready, but I know it's unfortunate, because, like you said, with all of it, the sooner is better. But someone has to show up committed and ready to do the work as well. I don't know.
Do you know how much like people kick themselves in the?
Of course, nobody ever said I got healthy too soon. Like, who would never would you say that? I don't know. For people that are like I am and they listen on the go, where's the best place to find you? And I know you make it easy because you're consistent with your
AlopeciaAngel.com. You'll have all the links to all my social media, my podcast, YouTube, everything is there. The free training is there right on the homepage at the top right. You'll also see all the free PDFs on the homepage, success stories, videos, testimonials, so much more. And of course, all the other areas that I can help you in, whether it's hormone, thyroid, or also with hair, of course, and all the news and events that are coming up. I'll be speaking December 6th in Arizona. So I also do a lot of live in-person events and looking to do more of them.
Great. Well, you should. The world needs it. Everybody also really be sure to check out the podcast, Alopecia Angel podcast. Like you said, so much inspiration, motivation, and just like you did today, you share so much gold. But anybody who is intrigued and leaning in, definitely go to the website, get those resources and book a consult, because Johanna is changing lives and you want to be on that list.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate you.
So appreciate you. For everyone listening, remember you can get the transcripts, links, and show notes by visiting inspiredliving.show. I hope you had a great time and enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity. Did you enjoy this episode? Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to get a transcript of this and every other episode, just head on over to inspiredliving.show or click on the link in this episode's description. There, you can also find everything we discussed in this episode, including links and information about our guest. You can even send in your questions to be answered by Julie in a future episode. That's inspiredliving.show. Until next time, this is Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, helping you take your power back.